All right, well, I was hoping that I would be able to actually have chat elements and all that stuff, but evidently that's not in the cards for tonight. So we are just going to get this thing knocked out. Tonight's goal, obviously, is get this thing cleaned up, and make sure the stuff works on it. So the vast majority of this kayak is cheap, right? A lot of it's used. A lot of it is stuff that's been sitting around in the garage for I don't know how long, like the fish finder, the rod holders, the milk crates, stuff like that, right? So the fish finder is nothing special. It's a 561 Humminbird. It's meh, you know, at best. There just isn't a big need right now for me to have a crazy fish finder on this kayak, especially when we have the tiny boat build coming up. So that tiny boat build, there's a chance that it could have some decent electronics on it if I get my way. But yeah, there's a ton of just leaves and nonsense inside of this. I mean, take a peek. You look on down in here, right? Got some leaves there now, but I mean, there's stuff, right? The cubby's dirty. That's got to be cleaned out. I mean, I'm seeing quite a few things that need to be done, and we'll knock through these things probably tonight. Honestly, a lot of it. Go ahead and get more of this garbage out of this boat, though. All that sand and whatnot. Sticks out of here. Let's go ahead, spray this boat down with some soap, some water. Let it sit for a second. Soften all that dirt. We'll give it a real good wipe down. It'll look like a completely different boat when it's done and actually cleaned. Spray that seat, make the seats nice and clean. Go ahead and spray the inside a little bit. See how that comes out. Now the soap should kind of help break stuff down and kind of make sure that everything's kind of uniform when it's done. But while that's doing that, I'm gonna go ahead, grab me a drink. So hopefully we get this kayak set up though, man, because it'd be nice to be able to be back on the water. Big consideration right now is how I'm going to film on the water, how that's going to happen. The big curiosity is, am I going to go live when I'm on the water? Am I going to film, post edited videos? Not entirely sure yet, depending on what, you know, everybody wants. All right. Work our way back. Try to get under all these little crevasses. sure. Wow. I don't know if you guys knew. Oh, it's yellow. It's not brown or camo. Anything crazy like that. Wow. Can't believe how dirty this thing got just from sitting. It's amazing what barn dust does over a period of time. That hole though, man, the bottom of the hole, the keel area, seems fine. That whole side panel is super dirty. We'll get that here in a second after another spritz, so that's going to be a little extra spritzy with the seat. Seat came out real nice. Dig on in there. Try and get as much of that crud out as possible. Alright, wipe the side so you guys can really see the difference here. Let's go ahead and hit. I mean, it really cleaned up to be a decent boat. Just a little tilt. Yeah, I love these folding tables for working on kayaks and stuff like that. Sawhorses work pretty dang good, but I like being able to have that table kind of so I can rock it back and forth, right? And being able to have pads on it to raise it up or down. Just a little easier to work with. For me anyway. Coming from like car world, right? We would have jacks or lifts or, you know, high workbench tables. A little more of that stuff out of there. Power wire for the fish finder. So that is a bee husk. Wasp husk? I don't know, man. I think it was sketchy though. Alright. So this thing kind of wiped down now. We can kind of work around this thing a little bit. So let's start with the fish finder. I guess that's the easiest thing to do since it's just a couple of wires and a battery. So this is the fish finder we're going to use. The 561, nothing special, nothing crazy. Let's reposition you guys a little bit so you can kind of see that screen. All right. So this thing, Humminbird mounts, right? You actually gotta click it in place. Nice positive click there on that Hummingbird. We're gonna take our battery. Transducer is in the back of the boat with a suction cup mount, so no problems there. Take our battery, put it up here since this needs clipped ends on these. So we're going to go ahead and test this. Fish finder should not come on and plug this in, but now it should, and push the button. All right. So we know the fish finder works. We know, looks like we have temperature. I've got suction cups to this transducer for the bottom of the kayak. Also, I've got this thing set up with silicone on the bottom, so I kind of can use it in a little thinner water. I can stick it inside the kayak if there's a little bit of water in it, and I still get decent readings through the kayak with most of these types of systems. All right, so we know this works. So we'll figure out where to put that another time. Now, the issue that we have is the anchor trolley system. I noticed that got broken last time it was out. Now, mind you, I haven't fished out of this thing in the last probably 20 outings this thing's been out. So there's going to be some borrowers' repairs, right? So let's go ahead and back you guys off a little bit so you can kind of see what we're working on next. All right. Give you a little turn there. So the anchor trolley system, the way this works is there's a pulley in the back of the boat, a pulley in the front of the boat with this Z-cleat system in the middle, where I can attach the rope, lock it in place, and it won't swing everywhere. So we need to make sure these pulleys are straight. Now, a little tip here is if you have some of this like paracordy type rope and you're trying to run it through something, don't just try to run it through without grabbing a handy dandy lighter. Which of course, set aside. So what that'll do, right, you've got your end that's all frayed, mangled. You can go ahead and take that, and there's enough plastic in this to where you can kind of squish that back down. And now you've got something you can kind of work with. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this kind of tight, right, with how it'll be on the boat. Figure out, okay, this is gonna go over the top of this. Let me grab the camera for you guys. Don't mind all the car and everything else. So this little doodad right here is what we're after. So this thing right here. Now, I'm gonna take the top of this. We're gonna pass that through the top of that pulley. I'm gonna pull that straight. Make sure I've got room. I want it below that Z-cleat line, if at all possible. Readjust you guys again. All right, so now that I've got this thing kind of strung up, you take this piece and tie this. Should happen. This should move back and forth freely along the edge of the boat. And I should be able to take this little Z-clip, wrap that around, and it locks that in place. So now that is essentially repaired. This system is awesome, dude. I love this system. It lets me do a lot of things on the water. But on this specific kayak, I seem to have a lot of times where it wants to ride up instead of riding under this little line right here. That's fine. It is what it is. But let's go ahead and grab our anchor and have a discussion about that real quick. Alright, so the first thing you'll notice about some of these newer anchors is they're not tied very well at the eye. Okay, and that's on purpose. So what you want to do is actually tie it here on the nose with the line running up and a zip tie here. We'll do that on another date. We'll do actually a specific video on that, but for now I'm just going to try to make sure all of this stuff mounts up on the kayak. And then we'll go back through and have a discussion about all the specifics about why and what and how for safety. So this is just a big old clip with a little buoy on it. It clips right on there. I'm able to drop this over the edge and do my thing. Now the question then becomes, where does that go? And that's a discussion, right? A lot of times, honestly, I just kind of have it sitting next to me. I could and should have it kind of behind me on a little pack, and we'll get to that here in a second. So we want to kind of get this thing just kind of going and get a basic idea and understanding the layout, what we have going on here. Fish finder works. The anchor trolley system is another pretty major system I would say on this kayak. That works well. Rod holders work well enough. Oh, they're keyed. And then they kind of push down the lock in place. That screws in place. So I like this style of rod holder though. Let's kind of take a closer look at these rod holders. So these types of rod holders I use a lot because you can take PVC, hang it out there, make an outrigger. You can troll with these. You can just use them as storage. A lot of times I'll have them set up to where they are essentially like this with my rods up. A lot of times I'll have them backwards. But a big thing with that is, let's grab a rod. And if I can get this thing in here with how tall this rod is you run into things like this, right? Where I can't lock my reel in place. So you kind of have to adjust all of that on the water. Now this one I probably would go ahead and swing around and have it facing away from me with a spinning rod. And with a bait caster, I like having it facing towards me so it's easier to undo. That said, I also want to make sure that it's easy to get a hold of my rod leashes and paddle leashes. So let's grab a milk crate real quick. And now this doesn't necessarily fit overly well, but we've got a rough idea of what's got to happen. So I've got the ability of drilling a couple holes and throw some zip ties through this, and this will stay in place and just kind of be there, right? With a little hatch underneath it for drinks, snacks, stuff like that. And I like that idea. I like the option of that. But I also want to add a lid. So I'm probably going to take another one of these, and we'll discuss that in a whole other video, and cut the bottom off of it, place it on the top, make a lid, and go that route so I can throw all of my tackle in here. Because, dude, I've got a lot of tackle, and I take a lot of things with me because I'm a junk fisherman. I like fishing a little bit of everything and going crazy. So, back to the rod holders though, because you know, ADHD. Any hoozles. Let's grab a rod leash. So this is what I like. This is kind of the type that I prefer. I like having the option of the Velcro around the rod and being able to clip and unclip this. So if I'm using a rod, I'll have it clipped to my vest. I'm gonna grab my vest real quick. And it's important that if you're going to do any paddling, you've got the right vest. So this is the vest that I grabbed. This is an Onyx vest. The big thing for me is having the back, right? That high back. So when you're sitting, it kind of gives you good back support and doesn't wear your back out over the day. Now, a lot of the time, I will just kind of clip this on itself for the rod that I'm using, just so that if something does happen, I can kind of recover that. Now, I'll also have a long paddle leash as well, so I can ditch my paddle, grab the fish, and get back to it. Another nice thing with these carabiner style ones versus the Velcro style ones, where you kind of Velcro it to a strap on your yak, you can go ahead and just give that a good little clip that right onto your rod, and as you switch rods, clip and unclip, that way you always have a point of contact with the boat, and you're not going to lose a very, very expensive rod setup. Another big thing that I am pretty big into is having the right paddle. I think the right paddle makes a huge difference, and obviously that's the way to go. So we want a paddle that doesn't have a lot of give in the paddle itself. So if you're interested in paddle recommendations, we can talk about that another time. But this is kind of what we're sitting at, guys. We're sitting at a sit-inside kayak that has a bunch of used equipment, and we need to make a milk crate. So I guess we can do that. That can be our next major project that we kind of tackle in the garage. Now, the type of fishing we're gonna do with this kayak, right? That's another discussion we gotta have. I am a bass fisherman. I like bass fishing. Give you guys a little height. So being a bass guy means I use a lot of tackle. And I mean, like, if I wanted to, I could probably stuff 10, 20, 3600 series full of crankbaits, right? It's a problem. So we need to manage that. So a big thing that I'm kind of considering is up under the front here on these sit inside ones, what I could do is throw some bracket of some sort underneath here, and that would essentially allow me to take a couple of boxes or a box, you know, kind of have it stuffed up under there, to where I can quickly grab it instead of having it on the floor, potentially getting wet. That said too, these fit literally perfectly inside a milk crate, so there's that option too. And that's probably going to be a way that I'm going to go, is I want to have plastics with me, a couple of crankbaits at least. I want to have spinner baits because I'm a spinner bait guy. Drop shot stuff, I want to have all my Texas rig stuff. Mind you, like I said, I'm sitting down, right? So we're sitting low, close to the water the entire time. So we want presentations that we can kind of manage. If this was something I could stand up in comfortably, then that would kind of change our techniques in what we're doing now. So I don't want a crankbait to the face. I don't want, trebles hitting me. So fishing low means we're going to fish a little differently. And I think spinner baits and single hook baits are a great option for these sit-in style kayaks. Obviously, the more comfortable you are, the more likely you're going to be to throw crankbaits, jerkbaits, stuff like that, right? It's just going to take time to get comfortable in the boat, on the water, doing the thing. But other than that, guys, I mean, we've got some major projects coming up with this thing. If you guys are interested in checking out the projects, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and check out more American Angling on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter as well. If you're interested in the angler content, we're getting back to that on a pretty much daily basis. But we're going to fill in with some of this IRL fishing stuff, so you're interested in IRL fishing as well as the angler. Be sure to hit that follow button, guys. But I'm hopping out of here. I'm going to go ahead and get to bed, and I will see you guys probably tomorrow.